Hi, I'm Adam from the YouTube channel Flying Low, which I'm using to record and share my motorcycling journey.
Welcome to the Real Riders Podcast. My name's Simon Josie, and this is a podcast about motorcycling and filmmaking. If this is your first time here, welcome and thanks for listening. Regular listeners may recall that at the top of my last episode, episode 56, I suggested you might want to check out new YouTube channel Flying Low. As you just heard, my guest for today's episode is Adam Kibble, who started the Flying Low YouTube channel in April this year. I reached out to Adam, who accepted my invitation to come on the podcast, and you'll hear my chat with him shortly. Note that Adam and I recorded our chat on the 17th of July. Since then, he's added at least a couple more videos, and the channel has surpassed 5,000 subscribers. Yes, it has been about 4 weeks since I published an episode, and that's because I took myself off for a bit of a bike trip, camping in the middle of France, then blasting across Switzerland, catching a couple of mountain passes, doing the Stelvio in the rain and fog, unfortunately, but then having the most amazing 12-hour day riding around the Dolomites in perfect weather, following a route laid out in Simon Ware's book, Bikers Europe Volume 1. It's no exaggeration to say that was probably the best day I've ever had on a motorcycle. You can find a short 90-second video summary of that day on the podcast's Instagram account. And remember how Andy Mancam and I were talking earworms in the last episode? Well, if you watch that short video, you'll get to experience that one I was talking about. You're welcome. There's a couple of things I want to bring to your attention. Firstly, Guy Markham, my guest on episode 49, has released his film about the 2026 Kuruntovanja Carnival in Slovenia. The film can be found on Guy's YouTube channel, which you'll find by searching for Guy Markham. The video was published on the 12th of July and has the name Kuruntovanja Rally, a winter ride to Slovenia's wildest carnival. I will, of course, include a link in the show notes. Secondly, I'd like to draw your attention to a YouTube channel that's been around for a wee while now. It's called Analog Rides, and currently there are 5 short films on the channel. The third film, which was published in late January of this year and has the title Inside Europe's Biggest Motorcycle Community Garage / Passion is Not Taught, It's Passed On, was selected for this year's Lisbon Motorcycle Film Fest. The 5th and most recent film was just published on the 2nd of August. It's called Why Some People Never Grow Old, and I will be very surprised if it's not selected by a number of film festivals. I'll link to the channel in the show notes. Go check it out. Finally, some good news for those of you anxiously waiting for an update about the Adventure Motorcycle Film Festival 2027. Tickets are now on sale and can be found via our website, www.advmotofilmfest.com, or by going directly to the venue's website, www.breweryarts.co.uk. Yes, I put the links to both in the show notes. The festival begins on Friday the 26th of February at the Brewery Arts Centre in Kendal with the Trailhead Social, an exclusive ticketed event featuring great beer, pizza, conversation, and a fantastic atmosphere as riders, exhibitors, partners and festival goers come together ahead of the main festival. Note that the Trailhead Social is ticketed separately from the main film festival event, which occurs at the same venue on Saturday the 27th of February. Film submissions for the festival are currently open, with the early bird deadline now approaching on the 27th of August, and don't forget the regular deadline is the 30th of October. Go to www.advmotofilmfest.com for instructions on how to submit your film or films. You might also consider giving the festival a follow on Instagram. The link is in the show notes. Okay, some quick reminders. Don't forget, you can find the Real Riders podcast on Instagram, where I post, amongst other things, trailers for each new episode. And if you want to know what I've been watching recently, I occasionally post about that on Blue Sky. Links for both the Instagram and Blue Sky accounts are in the show notes. Finally, if you want to help keep the servers running, pumping out the episodes, you can support the podcast via Buy Me a Coffee donations. I have a few operational costs associated with hosting and remote recording infrastructure, and any donations go towards paying for those. The link is in the show notes and also in my link tree, which you can find in my Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube account profiles. Righto, let's get to my talk with Adam. Hi, Adam. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being my guest. Do we find you well today?
Yes, very well. Thanks for having me. Quite excited to do this.
Oh, really? Quite excited? Because that wasn't your initial sort of response, was it?
No. Well, my initial response is that I kind of ignored you because, I said that I kind of got a bit of imposter syndrome because I didn't feel like I was ready for a podcast. I didn't even think I'd have much to say as someone who, I think I only had 3 videos out at the time, potentially.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I don't have that much more now. I think maybe 6 or 7.
Actually, 9 as we record today, but
9.
that includes one short.
Yeah, which really annoys me that it includes shorts because I feel like taking that short down because I don't see it as a video. It's just something I put up. I don't even know why I put it up. I put it up before all my other videos, and I probably won't be putting another short up, to be honest, because not my forte.
Well, let's see how things develop. Okay, so yeah, Flying Low's the YouTube channel, 9 videos, as we've just discussed. And the first of those videos was published on the 3rd of April this year. Tell me why you wanted to start the channel.
Yeah. So feels like I was always going to start a YouTube channel, and it wasn't necessarily going to be about motorcycling just because of my history, my career at Carwow, which is like, I guess, the biggest one as a videographer and a video editor, learning the YouTube trade there, and then eventually going freelance to do freelance video editing, videography for other clients such as Motorpoint with Tim Rodey and Ride2, another motorcycling channel, Red Bull. So yeah, it's something I've always wanted to do. And I think with a lot of creators or people who want to be a creator, it's always that feeling of being embarrassed to start a channel. But I started getting into itchy boots, as many new motorcyclists may kind of get their inspiration from, but also like books from Ted Simon with Jupiter Travels. And I just really wanted a bike. I started watching all these YouTubes and I thought, yeah, I want to get my bike license. I already had a CBT before, but I wanted to go all the way this time, get the full license. And the reason I want to start a YouTube channel with it is because it's kind of those things kind of just collided quite nicely. I had a good reason to start a YouTube channel with motorcycling, and I felt like I had the skills to bring something that, maybe was quite fresh, or at least fresh for me. So yeah, it was kind of just a collision of a hobby I wanted to do and kind of the skills that I've built up through my early career.
There are a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of motorcycle YouTube channels on sort of the vlogging style. Did you think about it for a long time before you actually started to make something?
Yeah. So my first video went out April the 3rd, like you said. I must have started recording that late February, probably. I put so much pressure on that first video. I was like, it's got to be perfect. So yeah, the time between filming it, editing it, and getting it out was quite a while. And it was actually going to be longer, but I kind of hit a point where I was like, I just got to get this out. And in terms of like building up ideas, I think I started building up ideas before I even had my motorcycling license. So it would have been the back end of 2025 because I was just so excited to get my license and start creating videos. So I say it's my biggest video. It's not got the most views, but the one that I feel like is my biggest because it's my biggest achievement and my longest video is the 6 countries on 1 tank of fuel. That video is that was always going to be the start of the channel. That's the one I always had in my head. And it was actually later on that I decided well, the way YouTube works is it needs to find your audience. You need to put out some videos so it can understand your audience and who you're trying to reach to. And that's when I was like, right, I'll do these little videos just so it can have a better understanding of my audience. And this video will be the big video that hopefully draws in an audience. But luckily, those little videos, inverted commas, actually jump-started my channel quite early, which I was quite lucky.
If you weren't documenting your motorcycling journey, what else would you have sort of turned the camera on? You know, you say that you were always like thinking about starting a YouTube channel. What other aspects of your life do you think you would have focused on?
Bit of a boring answer. I don't think I would have. I didn't have anything that I felt that was worth documenting. And it was this journey of becoming a motorcyclist and my current journey of being a beginner biker that I thought, right, that's worth filming. And actually, if you look at my life outside of that, it's pretty mundane. there's not a lot going on. So yeah, saying that about a year ago. So I'm also like into gaming a little bit. I wouldn't call myself like a massive gamer, but I'm into like casual gaming. And about a year ago, me and my cousin tried to start like a little gaming channel, but we kind of soon got bored of that. So that's like one avenue that I did try. But yeah, like realistically, I never felt like I had anything worth documenting until this came along. And the other motorcyclist YouTubers that I watch, it is about their journey from like a beginner. And I find that quite interesting. So I think that's why I've kind of gone down that avenue as well.
Is it a bit chicken and egg? Like what came first? Like when you decided to make that decision to get your full license, did you go, oh, light bulb moment, this is what I can build a channel around? Or was it the other way around?
I mean, I wish I could say it was motorcycling first. And in a way it was. But from the beginning, I knew that I was going to document it or I was going to create a YouTube channel because that was like, it's always been a desire and the motorcycling was an enabler. But also the YouTube side of it helps me stick at it because probably a lot of people my age kind of get into hobbies, do it for a few weeks or months, kind of get burnt out, and then it just kind of fizzles out. But this YouTube channel kind of gives me like a responsibility and a accountability as such, and a reason to carry on. And I still enjoy motorcycling and documenting it to a certain extent. So, yeah.
I mean, it sort of prompts the question, do you think you will get burnout from the channel or from motorcycling?
Potentially. I feel like I've burnt out a lot in the past. I think a lot of filmmakers have, potentially, especially when you're doing it as a career, doing it day in, day out, 8-9 hours a day. It's a lot different than just doing it as like a creative passion. So I've kind of learned what burns me out and what my limit is and like how to balance that basically just for my own sake. So I'm coping with it a lot better than I have in the past, for sure.
What are the sort of the warning signs that you are getting burnt out?
So, yeah, good question. So it's more of a feeling. Like at the start, I'm really passionate about something and I'll put like 150% in. And if you ask my girlfriend, she'll like say like I'll be sat on the couch and I'll just be daydreaming and it'll be about whatever hobby I'm into at the time. And it's when that fizzles out and I've done everything mentally I can into the hobby and I've got nothing left. And it's kind of like spacing that out as such, not trying to get into it like so passionately at the start and spend hundreds of hours on YouTube researching, looking into the bike, getting so technical. I'm just doing it at my own pace. But it's just a lack of motivation, really. I feel like that's what burnout is, especially in the creative space. It's just losing motivation. Yeah.
One thing that is talked about a lot in motorcycling circles is the mental health benefits of motorcycling.
Mm.
And I just wonder, as a new rider, are you encountering or experiencing sort of things going on in your brain as a result or during riding that you
Yeah.
haven't had with other hobbies, experiences, etc.? Like, that's kind of an interesting question because, I'm an old grey-haired rider. A lot of the people I'm friendly with or talk to are quite old. And we're just like, yeah, motorcycling is really important to us for what it does mentally. But
Mm.
that wasn't so apparent to me when I was a much younger rider. And so I'm kind of intrigued whether you're noticing anything.
I kind of think motorcycling is a bit like going to the gym in a weird way, because before you go to the gym, like the last thing you want to do is go to the gym. And as soon as you get in the car, get all your gym kit on, get to the gym and actually start doing workouts, that's when you feel the benefit. And it's the same with motorcycling. It's that whole kind of like psyching yourself to actually go out on the bike. And then once you're out on the bike and you start riding, it's like this moment, this like kind of like realization. You're like, wow, like I'm really enjoying this. I'm not like worrying about anything that's happening at home. I'm just concentrating on the road, the bends, the air going through your helmet. That sounds a little bit wanky, but you kind of get the idea.
Hmm.
But I always forget as soon as I get home and I think about the next ride, I'm like, oh, phew. Or especially if I'm like filming a video, because actually the filming process is probably my least favorite part of the whole process. And I'm like, oh, can't really be bothered. But then when I'm out and I'm doing it, it's always worth it.
Mm.
But like I said, it's like going to the gym. You don't want to go to the gym before you go. But when you're there and you get that pump of serotonin or whatever, you're like, yeah.
What's the ratio of filmed rides to non-filmed rides? Like, how often are you just going out for the enjoyment of riding versus
Mm.
going out with the purpose of actually shooting a film?
If I was to put a number on it, it's probably quite inaccurate, but I'd say 60-40, 60% I'm just doing it for myself. Because, like I say, I don't love the filming process as such. And I want to keep that spark alive with the hobby. Also, I live in the Peak District, so there's loads of nice places for me to go, thankfully. And actually, because I'm doing off-roading now, I do just love going to a local trail and just, flying down an off-road track without any cameras, without having to worry. And funnily enough, if I've got my helmet on and I've got my GoPro on it, even if it's not like filming, I don't enjoy it as much, even though I know it's not on. It's just like, it makes no sense at all. But something in my brain is like, maybe it's actually because it's quite low, the action camera, so it kind of restricts you a little bit. But yeah, as soon as I know that there's a camera on me, I'm just not enjoying it as much. But that doesn't mean like I don't enjoy making YouTube videos. It's just, yeah, I do enjoy going out and not filming. So most of the time I go out, I'm not filming. And I mean, I only upload like twice a month, but I'm trying to do it every week now. But so yeah, 60-40, I'd say, is a good split.
Why did you want to learn to ride in the first place? Like, what was the initial motivation for getting your CBT and then continuing on and getting the full license?
So I lived in London up until 2 years ago, and it was like the quickest way to get around London. Still is, best way to get around. So I had a CBT just for that. And I had like a YS 125 Yamaha. It was great. Loved it. I actually like enjoyed my commute, which not a lot of people can say if they live in London, getting on the tube or whatever. And I've tried like every mode of transport in London. Shame to say it, but I had like an electric scooter at one point. I was one of those. But motorcycling, best way to get around, quickest way, beat all the traffic. Loved it. I started my job at CarWow and it required me to travel a lot. Kind of needed a car. I couldn't have both. It wasn't financially viable. Got rid of the bike and it kind of never looked back. And it wasn't until recently, like I said, started getting into itchy boots, kind of that like dream of adventure motorcycling that made me book my test. I think it was May 2024 is when I actually started to build that kind of need or desire to get a full license, but it's not cheap. So I had to build up the money and take the plunge. And then it was Christmas Eve, I redid my CBT last year and then jumped straight into full license. But I knew as soon as, like, before I started my CBT, I wanted a full license. I wanted to get a bigger bike. And it's always been a Himalayan 411 that I had in my mind for that, actually.
One thing I've noticed, because you mentioned it a couple of times on a couple of videos, in fact, is that you often explain to the viewer that you don't come from a motorcycling family, which is kind of an interesting thing. Well, it's interesting that you brought it up a couple of times. So what's going on there? Why is that at all relevant, do you think?
Right. It's this, and it's one kind of like stigma in the hobby that I don't really like. And I don't know if it's just my perception of it or it's a reality, but a lot of people who are into motorcycling, you'll ask them and they say, oh, I've been on pit bikes or dirt bikes from the age of 3. Then they went into motocross, and they've always got this like massive history of motorcycles. And for me, it's a little bit intimidating to speak to these people with no prior knowledge of motorcycling. And a lot of the YouTube creators have this same history, I'd say, of always being around motorcycles or having like parents that rode motorcycles. And I never had that, and my family are quite against it. And to be honest, when they found out that I was going to do a motorcycle test, they weren't happy at all. So I'm trying to like speak to, because I'd say my channel, I'm trying to speak to other beginner bikers. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'm hoping that me saying I haven't got a background in motorcycling, they can like relate to it maybe. And it kind of makes my videos seem a little bit less intimidating and maybe a little bit more genuine. But also, I'm saying it as a disclaimer because I feel like I'm going to say something wrong, and I do say stuff wrong. So it's just a bit like, hey, I'm new here. Please don't hate me. Which is another thing, because I got quite good traction quite early on. I got a lot of hate at the beginning and it was hard to deal with. So every video I'm like, whoa, guys, I'm new here. Just so it's a bit of both, but mostly just trying to make other beginner bikers, because I know they are watching my videos, feel a little bit less intimidated.
Is motorcycling turning out to be the experience that you expected it to be?
Yeah, so mostly I think my thoughts going into it was like everyone was really respectful and kind, and they are. 99% of them really are. There is this, and I'm kind of putting myself out there, kind of exposing myself, but there's this 1% that I think it's the people who started motorcycling in the 1960s and 70s, maybe the golden age, especially in Britain, when motorcycle usage was like through the roof. And I don't think it's been higher since. And I think they see me as a new rider. I've been called like the pampered generation, which is fair enough. I probably am. This kind of new generation of motorcyclists, I think, I wouldn't say they see me as a threat, but I feel like those kind of people maybe want motorcycling to die with them a little bit. But it's a very small percentage. And yeah, I found that a little bit difficult in the comment section. A lot of people just telling me I need to stop riding because, when they rode when they were young, they didn't have a GPS. So they had to follow the North Star to get home and all that kind of stuff after fighting off a bear. And I'm never going to live up to that. But I think that's an individual problem, having a YouTube channel. But like I say, 99% of people are really kind when I go out on my motorcycle, you come to a traffic light, everyone's talking to you. Everyone loves a Himalayan 411 that I see in public. People online aren't as nice about it, but which is fair enough. Like, you can have your opinion, and I think in general there is a lot of pressure on, and I think it's just because motorcycling is online now, and there's always someone telling you you've got the wrong gear, or you should have brought this, or you should have got these tires. And I think, like, my message at the moment is just figure it out for yourself a little bit. Listen to the professionals and listen to what they have to say, but don't listen to everyone on a Reddit forum or something, because everyone's got a different opinion, and you'll just go into option paralysis. And I know I did. You've kind of just got to make a decision and make it your own journey in a way, because at the end of the day, it's just you and your bike and whatever decisions you make, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Just thinking, I didn't have that distraction when I first started to ride, because there was no such thing as the internet when I first started to ride. So, yeah. I mean, obviously you've been working around YouTube for quite some time now. Did you ever, you could have made a conscious decision just not to engage with the comment section.
Yeah.
What was your thought process about that going into the whole venture of starting up a YouTube channel?
Yeah, the comment section can be quite brutal. So I did go in thinking I'll just ignore them. And everyone, like, when my girlfriend can see me like worrying about it, I don't worry about it now, actually. I've came to terms with it, but especially at the beginning, when she could see me worrying about it, she was like, "Oh, just ignore them." But actually, when people are directing these messages at you, basically, it is hard to ignore them. And I found that even though I thought, yeah, just, shrug it off, it's a lot harder. And it is. I think it's the fact that they're anonymous and you're kind of just naked on a stage, not actually naked, but you're kind of just stood there and you can't see them, but they can see you. They can say anything to you. And yeah, you can reply to a comment, but generally best not to. So yeah. And I think actually the comments that hurt the most are the ones that are true. They're saying something that was actually a worry that you had or something. They're the ones that get to you. And but it's also like you can learn from them. The video that I put out, it was the reality of motorcycling. That kind of got the most hate. Part of it is like, so I create a YouTube video, and in my head, it feels quite lighthearted, and it's just a talking point. But because you've kind of like assembled this video and you've put some production quality into it, people might take it more seriously than you think they should or would. So they kind of have like hot takes on stuff that you kind of didn't think they would. And in fact, it's normally the stuff that I'm ignorant to that they comment on. Like, I'll create a video and I'll be like, oh, people are going to hate this bit of it, and no one will comment on it and they'll completely gloss over it. And there'll be like something small that's happened that everyone's picking up on. But yeah, I feel like I've soothed down a little bit. I can kind of deal with it a little bit more, and just ignore it. But it's hard when you start off, and like I say, it did gain traction quite early, which I wasn't actually expecting. And they say once you've started gaining traction, that's where you start getting the nasty comments.
I mean, you put yourself out there right from the first video. Many other early channels that I've seen, they'll start with something pretty benign, point of view, 20-minute shot, just riding from A to B, not saying a lot. But you were in there with your hook straight away and throwing some opinions around or sharing your experience in quite an open way. So, yeah, that was kind of unusual in the space.
Yeah. I think that's just because, my background is in YouTube. I know kind of what works. I'm not saying like I was trying to like clickbait, But I know that a raw POV ride is not gonna, because no one knows who I am. No one cares about a raw POV ride. But a beginner making mistakes, well, that's something you can click on without knowing who they are. And that's something that's quite interesting. And it's also like the direction I want my channel to be in is I'm completely honest with every mistake I make. And I hope that, beginner bikers can see it and be like, oh, well, he's made that mistake as well, so it's fine. Or it's completely normal.
And there's a lot of humor in what you're doing as well. So, like, when your bike does fall over in the Netherlands, you do kind of laugh about it. You explain why it happens and, point out how stupid you were and stuff like that, but in a lighthearted way. So it's very, I think, quite engaging. So it's quite an engaging approach.
Mm.
If you just were grumpy about it, I think people would turn off.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Mm.
What's the next phase of your motorcycling journey? Do you know?
That's a good question, because I feel like I'm at this stage where I've kind of like thrown all the shit at the wall to see what sticks. And I've kind of got a bit of everything up on my channel, which in terms of like a YouTube perspective isn't great. You kind of want consistency between your videos, because I've done like stuff on my gear and I've done stuff about like listicles, I'd call them, like beginner mistakes or nobody tells you this and stuff like that. I would call that like a listicle. But then I've done like the adventure, the 6 countries on 1 tank of fuel, which I wish I could just do that all the time, do adventures, but financially it's just not viable. So you got to create stuff in between. So yeah, in terms of where I'm going with it, I still don't know. I'm still working it out. I feel like there's not enough data yet. It sounds like I'm really data driven, but I'm not. But I feel like I don't know what the audience wants yet. And maybe I've gone round in the wrong direction a couple of times. I think people want to see my journey, and maybe I'm not sharing that as much as I'd hope, or that they would hope.
What makes you say that? Like, why do you think that?
Like engagement rate, like the 411 versus 450 video. I mean, I guess it's like a review from a beginner's perspective. It did well in terms of numbers, but for me, it kind of felt like a failure because I could see that my subscriber base wasn't really engaging with it. And that's what I want. I want people to engage with it and there be a bit of a community. And that video was a bit of like, I mean, if you think about who's going to watch that video, it's going to be people who they want information out of that video. They click it, they want to see the comparison, and then they leave. Whereas I want people to stay, engage with me, engage with a bit of community, subscribe, and then hopefully come back. I guess that's where I want to go with it. I just want a bit of a community around it. I put my email up on my YouTube channel, and I do say to people like, email me and I'll have a chat with them. And same with on my Instagram. I mean, I have conversations with people on there. I do get fulfillment out of that side of it. Recently, I've been like doing some trails off-roading, and I've discovered that, it's just so much more fun than being on the road. At least for now. Maybe it's because it's fresh in my mind, but I like the challenge of it and how, you can, like, there's loads of ruts in the road and you have to like deal with it. It feels like you have to concentrate so much more. I can't compare to, being on the track, but 90% of people or even more are just going to be on the road. And I do enjoy being on the road, but I've got a Himalayan 411. It's not great on the road. It hasn't got enough power really. So I have been enjoying going around the Peak District, going on some off-road trails and learning and getting humiliated because I do need some lessons. You'll see from the videos, I do need some lessons. But then, I don't see a problem with just going out and trying it. I've got like a micro adventure kind of moto camping in the Peak District where I'm going to do some off-road trails, camp up somewhere, spend the night, and carry on with the off-road trail. I think actually on the YouTube side, maybe people don't enjoy the off-roading as much on my channel, but it is something that I enjoy, so I'm going to lean into that as much as I can. It's fun though.
Okay, so my lingering memory of watching your first video was, whoa, who's this guy? Just got into motorcycling. But I'm pretty sure this isn't his first filmmaking rodeo, and we've talked a little bit about that already. So how did you get into filmmaking?
So I guess it was about 2010, 2011 is when I discovered YouTube. And don't know if you know back then, but there was quite a popular YouTuber. Probably wasn't even called a YouTuber back then, but his name was Freddie W. And he just created small short films with visual effects in. There's normally like action based. Very popular. If you look online, you'll easily find him. His channel is actually called Rocket Jump now. But I fell in love with that basically. Weekly uploads of these small action based visual effects videos, 2 minutes long, which, long form YouTube videos were actually like the short form back then, weren't they? Pretty much. Because all you could compare it with was TV. And then I don't even know how I did this. I had a terrible little laptop, but installed Adobe After Effects, managed to get it running somehow, recorded myself on the webcam, which was like 240p, of doing like a gun kind of like symbol with my hands, shooting, recording that, taking it into After Effects, putting some like muzzle flashes on. And like I thought it was like magical that I could do that. And that was like the first spark as such. And then, I'd clone myself, I'd do the lightsaber effects and all that, all the kind of beginner visual effects stuff. And then when I got into college, I guess I got more into the filmmaking aspect of it. Got my first camera that was I think it was a Canon 700D, which in America they call it the Rebel T5i, which was very popular because back then it was the DSLR craze. Like it was finally a camera that people could buy, and it was like a budget-friendly DSLR that could film video, like decent video for the time, and all the creators were using it. So I saved up with my paper round. So it must have took me ages. Yeah, I think it took me about a year and a half to save up on £10 a week, and managed to get that. And I just used it all the time, creating short films and all that in college. And it kind of gave me the desire to go to university film school, I guess, to study actually television, because the university I went to was Falmouth University in Cornwall, and their television was a more practical course, unlike their film one, which is more theoretical, and I wasn't really great at that. I kind of have a tough relationship with filmmaking. I kind of fall out with it and then love it again and fall out with it. And at university, I kind of fell out with it because it started to get very like serious, maybe. I think the first lesson I had was how to roll up a cable. And they were like, this is the most important thing you'll learn in television, which is actually true, because when you start off, that's what you'll be doing a lot. And I think maybe creatively, I kind of just, I don't know, I didn't really enjoy it. A lot of what we learned was about terrestrial TV and how to get something greenlit by Channel 4 and how to present to them and stuff like that. Like a 30-second pitch. All very important if you want to get into a production house for, Channel 4 and stuff like that. But it's not why I got into it. And it felt like this was 2016. Netflix was about, but it was still relatively not new, but I think Stranger Things had just came out, which isn't big for Netflix. But it wasn't household, I'd say. It was getting there. So they kind of snuffed at the over top, they call it over the top, don't they? Over the top services such as Netflix. They didn't see it as something that was really that important. So after university, I tried to get a job at a post house in London, which is basically a hotel for editors. But you don't sleep there. Well, you're not supposed to, but I think a lot of editors probably do end up sleeping there. Where a lot of TV, they had the facilities like the edit suites for production houses to come in and edit their programs. And so I got a job there as a runner. So I was making teas and coffees, basically. But it was actually like a great time, kind of running around Soho, picking up people's lunch. And then through there, eventually I made it to like an edit assistant. So I was on the Amazon Prime show All or Nothing, and it was about football. It's following Tottenham Hotspur. So I spent a lot of time at Tottenham Hotspur's stadium. And that's kind of where I learned Avid, which was Avid's like the professional industry standard editing software, what they still use today. Feels quite old compared to new editing software and a bit backwards, but that's what everyone uses. So I was learning that. But when that show ended, they didn't have a job for me as an edit assistant anywhere else. So they were like, oh, do you want to be a runner again? I was like, don't know, I don't know if I do. And in fact, like being in TV, it's really quite slow to get anywhere in TV, especially on the editor side. You might not be editing for like years, and it's not really what I wanted to do. So I looked for another job, and I found a job in advertising, kind of online advertising. It was a small production company, advertising agency that did adverts for loads of different companies. And I came in as an editor, and I was kind of like thrown into the deep end. And that's where I would say I started to like get a skill set in video editing. I spent about 3 years there, but I was a little bit out of my depths. Like, I don't know, the advertising kind of very cinematic, fast-paced editing all in 1 minute didn't really suit me, I guess. So eventually I kind of got burnt out and again fell out of love with filmmaking and decided to apply somewhere completely new. And that's where I got the job at Carwow. And yeah, that's really where I kind of got into my groove as a video editor and a videographer. And I learned a lot there. Just, again, kind of thrown into the deep end, but being on shoots, learning how YouTube works, putting videos out. I mean, was putting videos out like 5 times a week when I joined. So yeah, really learned a lot there.
Like what kind of things, what did you learn? What did you really take away from working as both an editor and a videographer?
So Matt Watson is the presenter there. I also edited and filmed a lot of his content on his personal channel up until recently. And just seeing how he presents, how he scripts a video, I've just took massive inspiration off because I've got no one else. That's all I got to see. And just seeing how he breaks up an edit and stuff like that and how he speaks. Yeah, that was a massive inspiration with when I started my own YouTube channel. And then same with video editing. I actually remember one thing in particular, which actually was part of Carwow, but I edited a Red Bull video on their channel called the Red Bull Ultimate Drag Race. And it was actually only supposed to go on their motorsport YouTube channel. So I was in talks with the director, editing that. And it kind of got locked. The video was done. And then they decided that actually it's going to go on their main channel, their main Red Bull channel. But there's a few tweaks I've got to do to put it on that channel. And this team basically came in, which I guess they're just like the algorithm gods. And they just came in and ripped the video apart saying, got to chop this because people are going to not be engaged. Chop this, chop this, chop this. And I kind of learned a lot from that, just seeing what they was picking out and like stuff that I thought was good in the edit. But I guess it makes you think as a member of the audience and as a viewer, is this actually interesting to the viewer? Why is this in here? Is it in there because it's just cool and cinematic, or is it in there because it actually provide something for the viewer. And I learned a lot of that through like Carwell, but also that Red Bull edit. It was a big aha moment. Like, oh right, I see what's going on here. What makes a good edit?
Was that demoralizing though?
Yeah, 100%.
It was.
Yeah. I was
Okay.
like, I've just finished this. I thought I was done with it. And but I knew it wasn't personal. Like the way they wrote the notes, I knew that they had a job to do, and their job was to make this worthy of the main Red Bull channel. And it got to the point where I didn't even feel like I was editing it. I was just following the notes. I don't know the length of the video. Maybe it's only like 6 or 7 minutes, but I think it was about 14, 15 before. So they cut a lot out. And we're talking like Danny Pedrosa was on that video, MotoGP. I don't even know who he was at the time, actually. Bits with him, like massive moments that kind of just got cut out. But they make sense. I kind of get why they've done it. But it was quite eye-opening to see that.
I mean, when you were working for Carwell, did you feel you had quite a lot of creative control as an editor?
I'd say yes and no, because it is a format, right? There's reviews, there's drags, and then there's the occasional special video where they do something different. I always feel like I'm not that creative, weirdly. I kind of like the formats. I kind of like having rules and going through an edit and knowing what I need to do and having those limitations and being creative in my own way with those limitations. If I have full freedom to do what I want, I get lost very quickly. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know where to start, I guess. And I think I wouldn't be very good at like short films and stuff. I think it would be just too much freedom. I kind of thrive in that kind of format. And you kind of can see it in my videos a little bit, that I've kind of chosen a format and I kind of stick with it. And I don't really stray too far away from it. I've never seen myself as a massively creative person. And as someone in the creative space, I'd say I'm on the lower end of creativity personally. But I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, that's interesting, because one of the things I've kind of noticed is just in the short space of the films you put out is how more of your humor is coming through, your sense of humor, and how you're sort of putting in little clips and little observations and little comments, maybe sometimes a bit of B-roll from a clip from television or a film or something for comic effect. And I feel you're sort of stretching your feet a little bit. I mean, do you feel that even in the space of the films that you're making, that you are maybe pushing those creative boundaries? You're sure you're working within a format, but you may be relaxing a bit more, showing a bit more of yourself, having a bit more of a laugh at yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I do feel like I'm kind of relaxing a bit. Funnily enough, when I put the first video out and I showed it to friends and everyone, they were kind of like, oh, like, where's your humor? Like, I mean, believe it or not, they kind of find me quite funny in personal life. And they're like, there's none of that in here. And in the next video, I kind of put that in, but then maybe it was a little bit too much. Maybe I forced it a little bit. And yeah, maybe I'm putting it in a little bit more. My next video, I feel like I've not put enough humor in. And it is something I have to deal with quite a bit. Like, because you don't want to come across too serious, but then, I don't know, you don't want to be a goofball, I guess. So it's, yeah, finding that balance. But in terms of kind of just being more relaxed, I've never presented anything in my life publicly. This is like the first time I've ever done that. And when I started, I was really quite nervous about presenting to camera and stuff. And that first video, it would take me 20 takes to get anything done. And funnily enough, I'll get into the edit and I'd always use that first take because it would always be the best. And then I kind of learned from that, you just get with the first take because it always feels more authentic. And I'm not like a great actor. So I think when I'm doing like a second or third take, it feels so unnatural because I've already said it. So Yeah, and I'm kind of just learning. Nothing has to be perfect. I'm really not a perfectionist in my work at all. Never have been. I'm quite lazy. I like to get it done as efficiently and as quick as possible. In the first video, I traveled all over the Peak District, which is quite a large space, just to get like the right shots. I'd go really early in the morning to get the golden hour. And that's why it took me so long. Just like traveling an hour. I think at one point I traveled like an hour to get some shots and do some like pieces to camera. Came back home, wasn't happy with them. So chose another location that was like 45 minutes away. Went there and filmed them. It's just like not very efficient at all. But yeah, I'm definitely more confident. I'll just go out and film now and I won't worry about as much as I did about certain stuff that I know doesn't matter. No one cares that it's golden hour. And in general on YouTube, like cinematic shots don't really matter, I'd say. It's all about the idea and the information. And I don't spend too much time making stuff look too cinematic. Like, I use ND filters. I make sure I get the motion blur. But I wouldn't say that's to be cinematic. I think that's just so you can relate to the speed that I'm feeling on the motorcycle. And like I don't use stabilization. I'll just have it full shake because that feels more authentic.
One of the things that I immediately noticed about videos is the scripting, which suggested to me that, you'd planned everything in advance in detail, before you'd even raised a camera in anger. So what actually is your scripting or pre-visualization process?
Yeah, it's definitely changed from my first video. And it just shows you how quickly it has changed because I've only got like 7 videos or 9 videos. So at the beginning, every word was scripted. On that first video, pretty much every word was scripted and I didn't deviate it from it that much. I think the only time I deviate from it is in the conclusion. And I think you can probably tell that I'm a little bit more authentic in the conclusion, which is useless because no one's sticking around to the end of the video anyway. Yeah, so very scripted, word for word. And then as I came more relaxed, I'll still script it word for word. I'll just jot down what I want. But what I'll do is before I go on a take or do a section of the script, I'll just read it and then kind of ingest the meaning or the points and then just see what comes out of my mouth, basically. So in terms of scripting and then how I present it, that's changed a lot. In general, I kind of prefer the videos that I don't script. And I think I've only done 2 of them really, and that's the 6 countries on 1 tank of fuel. I had like a rough story outline, which actually probably I didn't really need to because I didn't really stick to it. And then my latest video, which is the most fun I've had doing a video, probably because it wasn't scripted, where I feel maybe a bit more genuine, but I still script as such to make certain points. And because of the way the videos are and how I try to make it as engaging as possible, I need to know, right, I'm going to be doing this bit to camera when I'm riding a motorcycle, and then this bit when I'm in front of the camera, this bit is VO. Like that's very structured, just because I'm trying to keep people engaged.
Is that format approach taken from your time working for CarWow and other channels like that?
Yeah, I'd say it's straight from Matt Watson. Just like, because when I was doing it, I saw the script and I saw how it was structured and how he broke stuff up. And I learned from that. Funnily enough, like the people I watch is a lot slower. Like I watch like Freddie Dobbs as well, which I don't know if you've watched him. Very slow, but he's got such a presence on screen that he doesn't have to edit much. Whereas my type of editing, I would say, weirdly enough, I don't watch content creators that edit like that normally. I don't really enjoy it, which seems so backwards, but that's just my honest take on that.
As a observer, you make the filmmaking look easy, but what do you actually still find challenging about filmmaking?
Yeah, it's definitely not easy, as you can imagine. I find the ideas hard. Like we were saying earlier about just putting out a POV. Like I don't do that. I feel like I have to have a really strong idea before I'll film something. And that's another reason I don't upload loads. So finding a good idea, one that I think will be like good for the YouTube channel and for a potential audience. And then scripting it in a way that feels genuine to me, but also you gotta be so careful. Like I say, like I present it and I put the videos out as quite lighthearted, like I was saying earlier, but you've got to be careful with how people take it. People can take it a lot seriously than you think. So there's that. And then the filming process I struggle with just because it's the bit I just don't enjoy. It's the pressure of filming that I don't like. With editing, if I make a mistake, I'll just Control Z and go back, and that's the joy of it. And I'm a very clumsy person. Amount of times at Carwow I've screwed something up, not recorded something or not mounted a camera on a £1 million car properly. And yeah, I struggle with that quite a bit. The editing process is probably the bit I enjoy the most, which a lot of people don't feel the same way. But it's the bit I know. It's the bit I feel like I can bring back and edit sometimes if it's like atrocious filming. Sometimes I feel like I can bring it back on the edit. And that's just because my experience. And it's that seeing it come to life. And there's a certain point when you've edited it and you've added the music, you've added the grade, you're like, I like this. This is something I'm proud of. Whereas when I'm filming and I'm looking back at the raw footage, I'm like, oh my God, what is this? I sound like a right idiot. But it's that the process of shaping it into something that's half decent is what I actually enjoy.
What about the I mean, you're an on-screen personality now, Adam, like it or not. Like, had you given much thought to that aspect or studied other channels before you jumped into being an on-screen personality, putting yourself out there? And
yeah, one thing I learned very quickly was that you can copy another channel in terms of how they present, but it's never going to feel natural. I try to take points from other presenters, like, if I was like this would be quite cool because I like them and that'd be really interesting. But then when you try to present, it's really hard to be anything but yourself. And if you are trying to be someone else, it's hard to keep it up. And you've kind of got no choice but to be yourself, which at the beginning I had a problem with because I thought I've never presented and I don't find myself very interesting, as I'm sure loads of people don't. And I was like, who's going to want to listen to me as me? You know, this 28-year-old from the Midlands who hasn't really got anything interesting to say. But you've just got to be, yeah, I mean, you hear it all the time, but you have just got to try to be yourself on camera because you will find an audience that likes you for who you are. And people like people being genuine and honest. And they'll see it so quickly if you're trying to be someone else, whoever your favorite personality is. The way they present to camera, that fits them. And you've got to do it your own way. And that just comes naturally, I'd say.
being authentic, but also being vulnerable as well, because I think that's something that you definitely are on camera. I mean, is that part of you normally in daily life? Is it something that you feel you've had to emphasize, almost like it's a hook for the channel, given that you're a new writer? Is it something that you've thought about consciously, or is it just something that's happened naturally?
Yeah, so I'm not a very private person. And if you meet me, I'll open up pretty quickly. And in general, I found that the closest friends I've had, it's because I've opened up to them and made myself vulnerable in front of them. And in my friendship groups, I'm not very good at being a friend in a big group, but I feel like I have good connection with like one-on-one friends because I can open up. And I think when you open up to someone, they feel like they can open up to you. And if you show your vulnerabilities, then they can relate to it. And it's easy for people to relate to you. So when making the channel, I always wanted to be honest with my mistakes and stuff. And I know like people have commented saying they like that I'm just being like, I'm exposing myself and like showing my vulnerabilities. Maybe that's my personality. I'm not sure. Maybe. But then I guess in a way it was how I saw the channel going. But it's also been a bit of a surprise how people have reacted to it.
I think I had a look this afternoon. I think you've cracked over 3,000 subs or something now. You can probably correct me. I hope you're not the kind of person who checks every hour, but I think you have cracked 3,000. Would you prefer, because I'm guessing now, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, would you prefer like to have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 sort of close aligned subscribers who sort of get you and like you for who you are and your vulnerability and your honesty, etc., as opposed to 100,000 or 1 million or 10 million subscribers who have kind of a love-hate relationship with you?
That's a good question. I don't know if I can give you like one or the other, but what I can say is like I don't want like 1 million subscribers. Like also on the motorcycle niche, it's quite hard. Like it's a very small niche, and I do want a community-led fan base as such, or not. Not fan base, but yeah, like I want Discord between people, and I like that side of it. But if I'm going to be completely honest with you, a lot of people say, start YouTube, and they just wanted to record what they were doing, just as like a diary. And I do get that side of it. But as someone who's done YouTube for a while and come from that YouTube space, I got to be completely honest. Like, my goal is to do this full time, which it's a big goal because motorcycling is like a very hard niche to do that. But I want there to be like opportunities from it. And I don't know, it sounds maybe a little bit shallow, but it's already given me like great opportunities, and I love that, and I love like everything to do with that. I hope that didn't make me sound too shallow, but I mean, you got to think of it as a business at the end of the day. It's a lot of time that I have to put into these videos, and I'm a freelancer, so every time that I'm not working on a client and I'm working on this, there's money, and it's not profitable at the moment. Like I'm spending more money on the videos than I am getting back from it. But if you do want to take YouTube seriously, you do have to think about it as a business. And in 2026, I don't think treating it as something that you want to do full time or as a business is a bad idea. It's hard, and it's going to take a lot to get there, but it is a goal.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a valid way of making money. Yeah, it's a valid business for sure. But you've got to go into it with that objective front and center.
Yeah.
You can't sort of sideways into it. I think you've got to be committed and planned. And I mean, that doesn't surprise me because I do see purpose and I do see intent in what you're doing, even after just 8 videos plus one short. Yeah. One of the things I was wondering about, do you like get a real kick out of sharing what you've learned? And let me just give some context or give an example. I'm going to bore everyone and talk about scuba diving again, which I have done in the past. Apologies, no apologies. But, when I was learning scuba diving, we had the internet, but I don't really think there was YouTube, but there weren't good cameras at that stage. So this never occurred to me. But I wanted to share everything that I was learning. Like I had that real learner enthusiasm, and I wanted to share the knowledge that I'd just acquired. I was quite sort of gregarious about my enthusiasm for scuba diving. Because again, it's a little bit like motorcycling. It's quite a technical thing. You've got theory there, but you develop your physical skills and all that kind of stuff. Very similar to diving in that way. So Is that why you, in your first couple of videos, you focused on sharing your early learning experiences of riding?
So you're asking like,
Do you like teaching people shit? That's basically that's what I'm
yeah,
asking, because it's something that I recognize in myself. Just talking about me for a second, is that when I learn something new, my immediate impulse is to share what I've learned with other people.
yeah. It, do you know what? I don't enjoy. I feel like it comes back to that imposter syndrome. Like, why should anyone learn anything from me? Because I'm a beginner. And I try to tread carefully, and I think sometimes I overstep the line a little bit. And I don't mean to, but I guess it's just the way I write the script. I should be a little bit more careful. And I try to make that kind of like disclaimer, don't take what I'm saying as gospel because I'm just a beginner. Sorry, maybe I'm not answering the question correctly there.
No, I think that's really interesting because I sort of see, you're pushing up to that point. Like, I can't talk about these things with authority because I just simply don't have the experience to do that. But I can honestly share what my experience was.
Yeah.
And that's where actually engagement comes in because, okay, now my other boring hobby horse is talking about radio, which is where I come from way back in the day. And I had some exposure to the very early days of talkback radio in New Zealand, which, given my age, was quite a new thing. This idea that people from the audience would call up and have a whinge to the DJ, the radio DJ. That's not how radio used to be. There's a lot of radio like that now.
I didn't know that.
Did not. It's quite a new concept.
Because that's basically what radio is to me. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I grew up on, like, I listened to BBC radio too, and like that's what it is. People calling up, and then like the quiz shows and stuff like that. But you're saying, like, I'm sorry, I'm probably not quite interesting, but out of interest, when did that kind of come in?
So that would have come in, like in New Zealand, it probably first started to appear in the 80s.
Right, okay.
That's the 1980s, Adam, I'm talking about. So I remember they would like have a morning of it. So they would have, special, we're having 2 hours of talkback radio and ring up the host and just talk about anything.
Yeah.
And it was very novel at the time. But there was this guy that I worked with, Gordon Dryden, who was kind of like a pioneer of talkback radio in New Zealand at that time. And he said something to me many years later when I was working on another radio show with him. And he said, when we first started talkback radio, we realized that what we needed to encourage the people calling in, don't give me your opinions, give me your experience.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's a lot more interesting for an audience to hear people talk about their experience rather than their boring opinions. I mean, we've all got opinions, and when we talk, a little bit of opinion will slip out. We can't help it.
Yeah.
But people telling, it's a lot more compelling to hear someone talk about a story, about their experience of something, not what they necessarily thought about it or had an opinion about. Particularly if they have an opinion about something of which they have no experience, that gets very boring, very quickly.
Well, just on that, like, I can point to something where, so it's the 411 versus 450, like my experience. And I get on the 450 and straight away I'm going around the corners and I notice that it feels a lot more agile. So I say to the camera, like, it feels so much more agile. I'm having so much more fun on the road. And I'm like, I'm guessing maybe it's because I have more power so I can get out of the corners quicker and stuff like that. I go home and I do a bit of research. I obviously don't do enough research. And I come to the conclusion that the weight is lower on the 450, which it isn't. And that makes it more agile, which it wouldn't. It would make it more stable. I know this now. So I get a mallet and I show to the camera, like, because the weight's lower down, it's more agile. And I show like the leverage you can get with a mallet because it's heavy. And then I turn it around and say, because the 411's weight is higher, it's less agile. I shouldn't have done that because I'm explaining something that actually, like, I don't actually know. I should have just stuck to my gut feelings and my experience. But I felt like I had to explain it when actually I probably didn't have to. And people liked that explanation, but I had to put like a pinned comment, like I was wrong, like don't listen to me there. That's where I think I took it too far, and I kind of learned from that.
Yeah.
One, that I should do more research if I'm going to explain something like that, and two, maybe I'm not in a position to make those kind of comments. Maybe I should definitely be focusing more on my experience.
Okay, Adam, I think we're approaching the finish line. So just a couple of questions to finish up with. With regards to your own filmmaking, who have you taken inspiration from, and or who would you recommend others to watch?
Yeah, I have to shout out Carwow in a way, because I learned so much from them. And if you see my videos, you're going to see some similarities there. And just because I've spent so much time at Carwow and Matt Watson Cars. But a content creator that inspired me was Doodle on a Motorcycle. She's kind of came up as a beginner, and she's like done a lot of the same kind of style videos I have as such. And I'd say like she's probably my favorite. I think the way she creates content is really authentic, and yeah, I love that. But then I've mentioned I play video games a little bit, and I have like a favorite video game called Red Dead Redemption 2, which actually, if you play it, and even if you're not into video games, it's like one you can play and it's quite easy to pick up. It's like a movie in certain aspects. And I've actually recently got a tattoo to do with the game on my arm, which sounds a little bit crazy. But I actually take a lot of inspiration from that, just because kind of delves into that like adventure, because the story is all about these cowboys kind of running away from civilization as such, running away from, because it's set in like the 1800s in like Western America. Civilization was really kind of taken over, or like civilization as we know it. And it's all about these outlaws that are traveling east to try to run away from it, but then eventually it catches up with them. I think in my most recent video, you kind of can see maybe some similarities, just how I use music and kind of like pace a little bit. But then I always draw similarities to like, a motorcycle is just like it's just an iron, like you say, iron horse, right? I like thinking about that sometimes, just how similar they are. But actually, in a way, they aren't similar, because it's not like the motorcycle came from the horse. It was actually like a bicycle first, right? And then they started sticking motors on them.
You're prompting me to bring up a question that I've broached this topic at least one other time on this podcast with Roberto Serini, where I suggested to him that the experience of riding a motorcycle was not unlike riding a horse,
Right.
because you're moving through the natural environment faster than your own two legs can carry you. So it's kind of an unnatural experience, because you're moving faster than you would otherwise be able to propel yourself. And he shut me down and said, "Oh, that's rubbish. That's nonsense." I think he was doing it mainly for comic effects.
Yeah.
But it's a subject that I come back to with many friends on a fairly regular basis. It's not my idea. I don't take credit for the idea. I think that credit has to go, at least in my experience, to Mr. Noel Tom, who first suggested it and put it very eloquently to me. But I think it is kind of a little bit similar, riding a motorcycle and a horse, because you are moving through the world at an unnaturally fast pace for a human.
Yeah, I mean, I've never rode a horse, or except for like, a donkey on holiday on the beach. So, I mean, I can't possibly comment, but in a way, I'm going to put something out there that is probably not actually correct, and I'll probably get shut down. But a horse is like the perfect adventure motorcycle. It can combat any terrain in a way. But then, yeah, like riding a horse, it's like, it's adventure motorcycling is like the closest you can really make that comparison to, maybe like that all terrain go anywhere. And as an adventure motorcyclist, I guess that's what you're doing. You're kind of escaping civilization, or trying to in a way. And that's kind of where I make the link to like my favorite game.
I'm kind of impressed after, 56, 57 episodes. I think you're the first one to suggest a computer game as an inspiration.
Yeah, I was trying to go against the grain. Just be
well done. Okay, final question. Does the filming enhance or diminish the pleasure of a motorcycle ride for you?
Diminish. At the moment, it diminishes it. I think maybe when I do it more, I wouldn't say it would enhance it, but it would go alongside it. It would become invisible. That's the goal, right? In any kind of documentary filmmaking or whatever. But yeah, at the moment, it's as soon as I've got a camera on me, I know it. And I wouldn't say I act differently. Weirdly enough, when I'm on a motorcycle, I'm like a completely different person on how I talk to camera, and how just like my behavior is so much different when you're listening to my driving PTC than when I'm doing like a static one. I feel like more childish. I feel like I'm a kid. Whereas my like static pieces to camera are like maybe a bit more sensible. But yeah, definitely at the moment diminishes. But I think someone said once, I think it was Tom Scott, quite a big YouTuber, that even though it's a really cool thing that we can do, like filmmaking and stuff, at the end of the day, it's work. And with work, you're not going to enjoy every single bit of a job that you do. There's always bits that you have to do and it's going to feel like work. And like, it's like accepting that basically. And I can accept that with the filming side of it. It's not the thing that I like the most, but it's the bit that I know I need to get done to make the video.
Thanks so much for being my guest today, Adam. Now's your chance to tell folk where they can find and follow you online.
Yeah, so if you want to watch my YouTube videos, it's at Flying Low 1998, or I think now you can just type Flying Low and then get past all the airplane videos and you'll come to my big fat face in a helmet. And on Instagram, you can find me at Adams Flying Low, where you'll find hardly anything because I'm not very good at updating it, but I'm trying to get better.
Excellent. Okay, look, thanks again for being here today. Take care and ride safe.
Lovely. Thanks for having me.